listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Good evening, welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. It feels awesome to be back. I'm your host this evening, Kev. You can follow me on X at the Dynasty Mind, and with me, we have got the best two on tonight, so there's no surprise who I'm introducing you to right now. We've got the main man, Ali, who you can follow on X at FFDynastyGrill. Good evening, Ali. Welcome to the off-season. How are you doing?
Good evening, Kev. I have missed you, I have to say. It's been a long couple of weeks without you, so feels great to be back. The best two of the of the wildcard team, and yeah, just getting myself over the Super Bowl hangover. Not so much because of the alcohol, just the fact that we've not got football for a long time. But you have just cheered me up a little bit there, Kev, because you said welcome to the off season, and we know it's the most exciting time in the Dynasty calendar. So. Cannot wait to dive into some rookies in a few weeks. But yeah, we've got to talk about what happened during the last few weeks, and excited. So welcome back. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. I think first of all, you, Mags, and the guests have done an amazing job the past two shows, and it's been bittersweet. I love being on. I've missed those shows, but you've done an awesome job. I've not been here. It's been great to be a consumer of the content as well. So just really looking forward to tonight's show. I'm doing great. I've had a couple of days off work after the Super Bowl. So I'm just about up to speed with my sleep, I would say. I had 1 hour sleep on the Sunday night. So just about getting there now. But yeah, like you mentioned, like you teased, we're going to be discussing the past couple of weeks, the playoffs in general, really, from the 2023 season, just highlighting some of the key players, some of the guys that have really stood out to us in the playoffs. And then we're going to give you the dynasty spin on it. So what they've done and then how that impacts what we're thinking about them in dynasty moving forward. Obviously, the best two's on tonight. We have to give a little mention to Mags, whose Chiefs did win the Super Bowl. He's not with us tonight. Obviously, he's still celebrating. He asked us to read him out a little message, a bit of a fire up from the Chiefs, but I've not had a chance to read that yet. We wish him well, and he'll be back next week to join us again. But yeah, we're gonna jump in straight away with the show tonight, and as always, we kick off at QB. We're recapping the playoffs from a dynasty perspective. There's no better place to start, I guess, than a Super Bowl QB, but maybe one that you're thinking it might be Mahomes. It's not going to be Mahomes. It's going to be the unfortunate loser of the Super Bowl, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, so Brock Purdy he's been taking a bit of flack this past few days just because of the 49ers Super Bowl loss, and I think it's a bit unjust personally. I don't think Brock Purdy's the cause of why the 49ers lost the Super Bowl. I think he's nowhere near the top of that list. I think there's a massive amount of reasons. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan, his play calling, etc., etc. I thought Brock Purdy was actually really decent in the Super Bowl. I thought he could have been sort of the occasion could have got to him. I think with him being such a young into his NFL career, playing against the future GOAT. Obviously, a lot of people are like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest of all time already. What a load of bull. But Brock Purdy, to me, didn't play. He was neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes. I don't think Patrick Mahomes had a magnificent game. He obviously tossed that awful pick as well. But yeah, Brock Purdy, one of my flag plants from this year. We'll just had to get that one in there. Absolutely love the guy. Not spectacular in terms of what he managed to produce in the playoffs. When you look, he only threw for one touchdown in each game, over 250 yards in each game, but only just. And it's just his trademark for what he'd done all year was 250 yards, a touchdown or two. He got you around about 20 points in fantasy every game. Nothing more, but really nothing less. So that is what I called the perfect quarterback 2. I'll still call him the perfect quarterback 2. Trouble is, a lot of people have him ranked higher than that now. So for me, he's a fringe quarterback 1. I have seen some people have him ranked inside the top 10, which is far too spicy for me. I think in terms of his future, I think he's really secure for the next at least 2 seasons in San Francisco. I think they love him. I think I was really impressed with what I saw in the Super Bowl. He's not amazing. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but I think he's more than what he's being labelled. So a game manager, even game manager plus. I think that's not quite fair on Brock Purdy. I think he's better than that. When you look at his all them stats from this year, his deep completion percentage and all that, he's number 1 in so many categories, which is obviously impressive for what a lot of people thought he could be. Obviously, he has the weapons. You take away the weapons, or if you put Brock Purdy on another team, which you've mentioned in your amazing article, Kev, he's not the same player. So I think you've summed him up really well there. But for me, I really like Brock Purdy. What I'm doing with him in Dynasty, it really comes down to how people value Brock Purdy, because, like I say, there's people that value him less than a quarterback 1. In them positions, I would be definitely interested in trying to acquire Brock Purdy, even though I've got plenty of shares where I picked him up for free sometimes or cheap. I would still be buying him if people have him valued lower than a quarterback 1. But if there's people that have him higher than a quarterback 1, so quarterback 10, that gets a little bit too much for me. I think the likes of Kyler Murray that are ranked lower, I'd have him much higher than Brock Purdy. I think you've got 2 solid years with Brock Purdy on this 49ers team that's going to be loaded. Then after that, I think it gets a bit more dicey for what his future holds. Yeah, he could be the long-term starter. He could be there for the next 5-8 years, but I'd say 2 years locked in. I think he's a really interesting guy. Mr. Irrelevant going up against the beast Patrick Mahomes. Couldn't quite bring him down, but this team's going to be reloading again for next year. There's no doubt about that. And I could easily see him having, where did he finish this year? Quarterback. Was he quarterback 5, 6, something like that?
Yeah.
He's going to be in the mix. He's going to be in the mix for at least a top 10 quarterback. So, really safe. And on a win now team, if he's your quarterback 2, you're feeling really good about that.
Yeah, I think the last part of what you said there really rings true. Let's just go back a little bit. Like, talent-wise, I don't think it's ever going to be there. That's just personal view from draft capital and sort of how it's panned out. The situation is in is amazing. So I think putting all that aside, you've got to understand he's in that situation for, like I say, the next 2 years. Like the rookie deals for the next 2 years. I think after that, it gets a little bit interesting, because if he ever does leave San Fran or something happens where all the weapons go, I can't see him succeeding. Like, stick him on, I don't know, the Jets or the Bears or something like that, and I just can't see him ever replicating what he's done this season, which he is a high QB2 in my eyes. I think we consider that 2 years is a safe amount of time. We're playing for short windows. I play for this season and next season in Dynasty, so 2 years is what you should be thinking, which is safe and secure. But like you said, you can't treat him as a QB1 in my eyes, because I think when you get in beyond those 2 years, he might have a job by then, because people think he's safe, but he's actually quite volatile in the sense that it could be another Jimmy G where it doesn't quite make it to the next level, and then they go hunting for another QB. We've seen Shanahan's kind of looked into him a little bit, like got lucky taking him so late in the draft and he's panned out. So I think your QB2, I think, is fine. If you are taking him as QB2, you need to have someone with a high upside as QB1, because I don't think if you're building with Brock Purdy and another pocket or limited rushing QB as your QB1, there's going to be teams in your league that are absolutely destroying you at QB. If they've got, like your Josh Allens, your Mahomes, your Jalen Hurts, these sort of guys, you're going to be playing catch up straight away. And then you've got your QB2, which, if you think in year 3, that's big question marks for me. So I think what he did in the playoffs was what was expected. He struggled against the big teams. He struggled in sort of the big games fantasy-wise, I feel. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at on him. It wasn't a shock to how he's performed in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl. Would a better QB have won the Super Bowl? I'd argue yes, but like I say, it's not on him. I think it's more on Shanahan and potentially a bit of unluckiness on the special teams as well if we're analysing the Super Bowl as well. So we're going to move on from Brock Purdy, a guy that's considered a safe, steady floor, to the MVP, Lamar Jackson, a guy whose ceiling is astronomical every season. And I think when we look to the playoffs this season, real life point of view, he has put a few demons to bed. The fact that they easily dismantled a really hot team in the Texans. And then he did his utmost to beat the Chiefs. But I just think that game, when you saw Kelsey make that massive catch over the middle, you know that there's going to be one winner. Like he was written in the stars. I just feel what he does on the ground is fantastic. In the playoffs, he had 100 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Texans, then another 50 yards on the ground against the Chiefs. So each game week you've got in Dynasty, you've got the floor and the ceiling from Lamar, which is ideal. You did mention that article that I did write over at DLF, and Lamar Jackson is someone that stood out to me metrics-wise as well. The fact that he had such a good season, a top 3 QB, fantasy points per game, but actually there's a lot of meat on the bone. This is a team that was playing from ahead with a big lead, a slow pace of play. The new offensive coordinator, I mean, if you're looking just at the bare numbers, it just look like another Lamar Jackson season, run-heavy team, pass attempts, etc. low. There's a lot more on the bone, I think, for the passing to go up, but also when you're passing more, you've got more chance for rushing as a QB as well. So I just think we could have another big Lamar season, like where he's breaking records and he's the best fantasy player of all time in a season again. So you got to think his best weapon is a rookie in Zay Flowers. He was missing Mark Andrews for a large part of the season as well. And this could be a team that next year face a tougher schedule, potentially facing those teams that also won the divisions. There's going to be a lot more shootouts feel, and I think that there's more room for growth in his game. In my eyes, he's the Dynasty QB2. I think he definitely deserves to be on that top tier. If you've got him outside that tier, it's too late. I'm going to say you're wrong if he's not in your top tier. Actually, I'm that convinced that he's got the security, he's got this new system, and there's absolutely loads to be really positive about with Lamar. And what he did in the playoffs, fantasy-wise, it wasn't the best game against the Chiefs if you're looking at pure fantasy numbers, but I just think it was one of those tough shootout games where if you look at him over the season, I've got no issues if he's slightly more boom in certain weeks. The fact that he's got that rush floor gives him that safety as well. What are you thinking on Lamar?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said there, Kev. I think you having him as quarterback too is absolutely spot on. I think he, at the very least, deserves to be almost, exactly equal in terms of value to Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. A lot of people are low on Jalen Hurts now. I'm still really high, but you just have to be high on Lamar Jackson. Obviously, going into year 2 with Todd Monken, that's a massive thing for me because I really thought that he would be in line for some head coaching jobs. There was a lot come up this offseason, and the fact that he's staying there for year 2 is really, really exciting. You have to believe that they look to upgrade their wide receiver 2 as well. I don't think they're going to pay OBJ. Bateman has been really poor. I really thought he was going to be a better player than he's turned out to be. And then Mark Andrews, obviously, you've got Isaiah Likely that stepped into a decent role there. But there's so many weapons. You have to believe that they're going to shore up the running back room as well, because that's just been a tragedy this year. Obviously, Gus Edwards stealing all the touchdowns. What did he have? Was it 13 on the ground? In a normal year, Lamar takes 6 of those away. And so his ceiling is absolutely massive. And I still see people with Lamar ranked outside the top tier, which is crazy. I mean, had Todd Monken left, I would have had a few concerns with the offense going forward. But for year 2, it looked really good year 1. If they can stay healthy this year, reload and go again for next year. Really, really exciting. The only player I'd have firmly above him would be Josh Allen, and there's question marks over his weapons, but Lamar is safe as houses with the contract, the situation. Yeah, you've got to love everything about Lamar Jackson. So I would be looking to acquire him even more places where I can. If there's someone I can jump off of, if I can get plus with, for Mahomes plus and get Lamar plus to trade away any of those top tier pieces, even if it was Josh Allen, if you get him plus for Lamar Jackson, that's looking pretty tasty right now.
Yeah, and I think just bringing it full circle on like the way this season's gone, it was running back 1 in yards and running back 1. I'm not throwing shade, I promise. QB 1 in rush yards, but QB 4 in touchdowns. There's still more growth there. You said like Gus Edwards had 1 million touchdowns and they're playing from a lead most of the season. So completely agree on that. I think, and actually, like I've got him 2. He's closer to 1 than 3 for me as well. So yeah, I'm not going to be that crazy and putting QB 1, but I think it's not yet. We'll have to see. Maybe next off season. So yeah, we're going to move on from the MVP to a guy that has a trophy of his own, but trophy. We'll say a ring. We got.
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco. So we've got to talk about some running backs. I absolutely hate running backs in Dynasty right now, but really like this guy, and he just makes me laugh every time I watch him play because it's almost like he's trying to hurt the ground when he's stomping on the ground. His running style is really, really hilarious. But he's really impressed me, this playoff run that he's been in, just all season really, and he's really made this position his own. CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is nowhere to be seen. He's going to be moving on, I'm sure, this off season. But Pacheco is firmly there, rooted as the Chiefs running back 1, and excited for the next year or two for that to continue as well, because they've turned into more of a sort of balanced team rather than just relying on Patrick Mahomes flinging it. They've really done well on the ground this year, and I can see that only continuing going into next year. So just in the playoffs, he's had a touchdown in every game apart from the Super Bowl. You've got 89 yards against Miami. You've got 97 yards against Buffalo. That's really impressive at Buffalo when they weren't favored in any of these games. I think I saw the odds. And then again, impressive at Baltimore as well. Really tough place to go. And then in the Super Bowl, having 6 catches, nearly 100 yards total in that game. Just really impressive from where he was drafted. I really wasn't high on Pacheco, but when you looked at it going into this year, I like running backs, even when the talent is not overall there. You look at the likes of Rashad White, had to get him in the show. But when the volume is so clearly going to be there, and the offense is good, there's obviously going to be scoring opportunities. You just have to adjust your ranking. So Pacheco is always going to be successful in this offense, especially with them turning to a more balanced attack. So I think I really have to like Pacheco going forward, especially playing on a short window. There's really not that many running backs right now before the rookies land in their places that you can be really confident on, even into this year, 2024. There's really not that many running backs where you say, right, they're going to be pushing running back 1 numbers, and I feel really good about them. There's just not many. So Pacheco, for me, he has to be one that I feel really good about. So again, if there's people trying to jump off him, or there's people that don't rank him that highly, maybe because of draft capital, talent, I don't know. I'm going to be in on Pacheco. So yeah, I really like him.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say I was watching the Super Bowl as a neutral, but actually I was watching it as a Chiefs fan because obviously 49ers, they thought would have won the Super Bowl last year with Purdy. Obviously I'm an Eagles fan, so it's great that they didn't win this year. Sorry, 49ers fans out there. But Pacheco, I just feel like I was nervous when he was touching the ball because he had the fumble, then he had that botched toss from Mahomes, and I was nervous. I was thinking that Andy Reid's got balls of steel to trust him in these big moments, and obviously he wasn't put off. He got a ton of touches after the fumble and the botched snap and the receptions as well. So look, he's on his rookie deal. He's been used sometimes in the past game. I don't think he's a great pass catching running back. I think he's more of a, I'm going to give you 50 catches for 300 yards, which it's not great. I think that there's potential that they do upgrade that pass catching running back option. McKinnon was great last season, but he's not been used much this season. Edwards-Helaire, he's dust in that scheme. So I won't be shocked if they got someone in the draft and that could eat away at his production. I think the receiving course due an upgrade as well. So I'm worried about sort of what could his ceiling be. I think there's going to be people still in on him as the running back in a Mahomes offense. Running back 13 at Keep Trade Cut, which it's not an area I like to be fishing, if I'm honest. I think you've got the way I'm treating it in Dynasty for running backs is there someone in that 20 range or later that could finish as a top 10? We saw quite a few players this season make that jump. Rashad White was one. Second shout out on the show from a non-Bucks fan. And then there was Kyren Williams, who came from nowhere, which is obviously a lot harder to predict. But when I'm thinking about running backs who I'm going after as such, I don't think it will be Pacheco. It'll be the next guy that we talk about, but also some other guys around that range, which I'll come on to. I think playoff-wise, he did again kind of what was expected in my eyes. I think rushing was great, touchdown dependent if you're thinking fantasy-wise. But yeah, I think one thing you can bank on in the short term is rushing volume and touches. So I'm kind of lukewarm. I don't think just where he's going at, I'm that interested. But if I've got him in an existing league, I'm definitely not just going to move him off for nothing. I think if I can get running back 13 value to pivot right up to the top 6, I'm good for that. Or if I can pivot down.
Would you take the 112 for Pacheco?
It's a great question.
Because that's about his value that I'm seeing.
I probably would, but I wouldn't use it on running back, I don't think.
No.
It'd have to be a certain build where I can take the rookie wide receiver, or I can use it to do a different sort of deal. I think if your plan in your head is, I've got Pacheco, I'm going to sell him for the 112, and I don't know, pick a running back based on what's the best landing spot, because they're all of a similar talent level. I mean, long story short, I don't think there's going to be a rookie running back entering the season that's above running back 13. So you've kind of just lost value there in that respect. But I think, if you're thinking bigger picture and you're willing to do a little bit of work, I'm taking that first and looking to reinvest it and rebuild elsewhere. But I think with Pacheco, he's done what's expected. I think he's had a solid off-season in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, but it's more about where he's going as opposed to what he is as an asset in that respect. Okay, so we're going from a guy that's early on in his career to another running back who's maybe coming towards the end, but had a fantastic playoffs. We're going to talk about Aaron Jones now. So I'll be honest, I was shocked with what he did in the playoffs. I mean, first of all, Wildcard game at Dallas. The first ever 7th seed to beat a 2nd seed. So unlucky Cowboys. I'm coming out swinging tonight. 118 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. I didn't expect that against a really stingy defense. I think, he had that 118-yard game. Then he played against 49ers, went over 100 yards on the ground again against another tough defense. So mild shock that he's doing this at what age? 28, 29. And people have been key on him because Jordan Love, while he's had an amazing season as a true breakout, there's got to be some attention on the running backs because Jordan Love, it's the first season he's done it. So I think Aaron Jones had a really quiet regular season, but bounced back in the playoffs. Why was that? I honestly don't know. I can't put my finger on it. How he's done that in the toughest spots, but I do think it gives you some positivity going into next season. He's going late 20s in the running back range in Dynasty. AJ Dillon, I think he might be a free agent actually. So there's going to be an upgrade there, but it just depends who comes in. I've always loved Aaron Jones' efficiency, that he's sneaky good touchdown guy. He's got the usage in the pass game if they want to go that way. And thinking about the Packers' offense and system, unlike Pacheco, I can't see the Packers adding much in terms of weapons because they've got all these young guys that have got the potential to grow themselves. I don't think they need to go out and make a splash like I was going to say T. Higgins, but he's resigning. Don't need to make that big move in the draft or in free agency, I don't think. So Aaron Jones, short-term wise, he's someone I'm interested in. Other guys around him that I quite like as an old man discount, you've got like Mixon, James Conner, Derrick Henry. I think if you're punting the running back position, if you're looking for a deep running back who can finish on a running back one next season, he fits that profile. So yeah, I was really impressed with his playoffs. I think before that, I was kind of out on him. I sold him for a random second in one league. So yeah, I think it has swung my mind a little bit, thinking, he has still actually got some juice, and turned it on the big stage. Could that bite me back and it be vividness bias? Potentially, but I think running back 29-30 where he's going, I'm happy to have a stab at Aaron Jones. There's going to be a lot of teams in Dynasty that are playing hero RB and taking one and then punting the position. So you just have to gauge the room in your startups and in your leagues, where if everybody's doing that same strategy, you might not be getting in when you think you will in your startups. So read the room. If it's an existing league and you can get in for a mid to late second, let's say a late second if you're a potential contender from this season going into next season. Personally, if he's the final missing piece at running back 2 and everything else is set, I kind of like buying him now for 2.9, 2.10, 2.12. Then you know what, you could hit on a rookie running back that you've got 5 years. But then again, look at some of the running backs going late second this year. Roschon Johnson, Tank Bigsby, IJ Spears, who's got a bit of hype, done great. But there's been lots of landmines in there that didn't quite work out. And if you was banking on a Tank Bigsby to elevate you from a middling team to potentially contending, you've missed out, unfortunately.
Yeah, so took words right out of my mouth when I was about to say a late second. I think you can buy him for a late second right now and probably get that deal done. Obviously, team dependent. If you're a middling team, you don't really want to be buying Aaron Jones because he's not going to be the one piece that puts you over the edge right now. But if you are clearly a contender next year, you've got a decent roster, and you don't need to wait for one of these rookies to hit in year 2 and year 3. I'll easily send a late second for Aaron Jones. I'm just seeing his cap number, 17 million that he's due in 2024, which is obviously a lot of money, but the dead hit is 12 million. So they save 4.6 by cutting him. I can't really see there being a reason why they'd want to just save 4.6 billion and pay him 12 million not to be on the team. I don't know what their overall cap situation is like going into next year, but you have to believe, and I saw today with the teams that are ranked going into next year, which was quite funny. And I think Green Bay Packers like number 4 or number 3. Yeah, I think it was number 4 in terms of the overall team going
overall
into next year.
Or NFC, sure, right?
It was above the Ravens. Wow. It was pretty. I'm sure it was above the Lions as well. But
Jesus,
it's I may have read that wrong, but I'm sure I saw them there and I was like, wow. I mean, I know they impressed, but that is a bit of a stretch for me. But yeah, Aaron Jones is one of these guys. Obviously you don't always want to be buying running backs because there's so much that can happen. But when you really evaluate the situation, I can't see much on offense that's going to change just because of how good it looked in the second half of the season with under Jordan Love, under center. I think Aaron Jones is a guy that you want on your team, especially if you're trying to contend to be that running back 3 is really crucial because he has these big blow up games, and you want running backs that can have that ability to really have 2 receiving touchdowns and 100 yards and really help you win a week. And he fits that mold. Don't really see him slowing down just yet. So while people are trying to jump off because of that age, where he's getting up to that age where people are like, oh, I don't want any of these running backs other than Christian McCaffrey, then yeah, I think he fits the mold of someone that I really like.
Indeed, we're in agreement then that Aaron Jones is a sneaky buy in Dynasty, as well as some of those older running backs. I think what you're going to see as well, it's going to be a slightly different curve when the market catches up. Usually, running backs get to 25, 26, and then people are just out. But I think what the sharp people will be doing is actually buying back in when they get to 28, 29, just on the win where if they've got one extra season for the cost of a late second, or potentially, I don't know, some sort of pick swap, then it's, for me, it's a no-brainer for that final little push. I'd rather do that little push now than pay, I don't know, something a lot more extreme when it's week 15 and people know that you need that piece. So think ahead.
Yeah.
We're not advocating buying running backs in the off-season because you can lose the job. But I think in Aaron Jones' case, he's not going to lose his job. They're one of the contenders in the NFC. They've got a young team around him. He's got to have veteran presence in that locker room. So he's going to be safe. I think he's one of the people that you can be confident in going into next season. And speaking of confidence going into next season, we're going to be having a lot of confidence in this guy for many years to come. I think I won't spoil your thunder on this one, Ali, but this guy had an extremely eye-catching game in his last game in the playoffs.
Indeed. So Zay Flowers really, really impressed me. He was a guy that I was high on as a rookie. Was a bit too scared to make him my wide receiver 1. I think he was my wide receiver 3 in the end. But second half of the year, Zay Flowers really did come into his own. Looked really good down the stretch, like he could be that future wide receiver 1 for Lamar Jackson, which is incredibly exciting. The thing that impressed me the most with Flowers was as a college player, really good with the ball in his hands. They tend to get the ball in his hands quickly, and it was after the catch where he done a lot of his damage. But his route running really came on second half of the year, and he was going deep, he was going intermediate, as well as them short passes that were there early on in the season. And he was someone that really stepped up when Mark Andrews went down. I had concerns because he wasn't always flying sort of first half of the season. There was a lot of pressure with the Ravens where they're pushing for that number 1 seed, and he had to step up, and he really did in a big way. So really exciting player for Dynasty. There's a few players that have got sort of grouped in Dynasty with him and Rashee Rice. I think he was someone that I find very similar in terms of obviously linked to an elite quarterback, really stepped up second half of the season. Really like these outlook on these guys going forward. Would rank them as a wide receiver 2 in Dynasty. That game against the Chiefs, 115 yards and a touchdown, really stepped up big for the Ravens. So yeah, there's really not many negatives to say about Zay Flowers going forward. He has the potential, in my eyes, to if they don't sort of sign anyone really big this offseason as a wide receiver, if he is their wide receiver 1 going into next year, then I can see a way where he is ranked as a wide receiver 1 this time next offseason. I do think that the ceiling is there for Zay Flowers. So again, it's another guy. There's not many guys on this list that I don't like, but have to say Zay Flowers is is certainly one that is really, really interesting to me this offseason.
It did, and I think like it was a really eye-catching performance in the sense that he looked explosive. He delivered some great plays, but also the fumble at the goal line, which proved a massive swing in that game. I'm really interested to see how the market views sort of that Vivian Aspire survey made that mistake in the moment, and he's also had some personal troubles in this offseason as well, some legal troubles rumoured on the horizon. Yes. So I'm really interested to see how the market changes, if anything, on him. Wide receiver 21 at keep trade cut. I mean, if there's a dip on him, like I mentioned, I'm in on Lamar because I think the pass volume is going to go up, and I think what he's done in year one is great. I actually think having Andrews back is beneficial for him because it's essentially, look, OBJ, Bateman, they've not done it really, or they're coming to the end for OBJ in that sense. So I think teams will be able to key on him. I know he had an amazing week 14, championship week against the Dolphins. So I think anybody that's got him should be really happy with. Week 17 in the playoffs because, he had that big blowout touchdown, which surely helped some people win ships. I'm really interested at that price, wide receiver 21. I think there's more room to grow in that. It might be that his price goes up and I sell him in the future, but I just see that trajectory of the increase. So I think with this pick, this selection of Zay Flowers, I think it's something I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be targeting, like I said, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. I'm happy to go after all those. I think it is easy to acquire as well. I think just when I see that name, you just get me thinking of Miley Cyrus' song. Actually, I can buy myself flowers, and I think it's going to be easily attainable. Like wide receiver 21, but rookies are going to come in. He's going to drop to probably wide receiver 24, potentially 25. Maybe if he has if these legal troubles play out and there's more coming with that, it could drop even lower than that. And I think it's a range which is really fluid between sort of, I don't know, top 10 to 30, like we say every year. It's such a flat tier that anybody towards the lower part of that you can be really interested in. And I think Zay Flowers, people might be put off by Mark Andrews coming back. I'm not. I'm into Flowers. Let's get it. Wrecking ball.
I've got to ask you before you keep going on with the Miley Cyrus puns. That so are any of these three wide receivers? Because I think we touched on this on our last show. Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, obviously really, really impressive rookie years. Is any of those three that stands out you'd have above the other two, or do you think it's a case of, because where I see them ranked, it's always very, very similar. But yeah, just interested if any of those three jump out to you.
Yeah, I think first of all, they're in the same tier. So if you're getting anything extra, you do it whichever way it falls. Market's got Rice the highest, which is that because he's on the TV at the weekend and he's played longer into the playoffs than both Dell and Flowers potentially, but I don't know. Like Rashee Rice, sometimes I love him, sometimes I hate him. In the sense that it's a lot around the line of scrimmage and the manufactured touches, and I still think the Chiefs, they'll be adding someone in the offseason, whether it be a major splash or an upgrade as a deep threat. It's actually quite funny that MBS had a touchdown and Hartman had a touchdown, both Mags's guys in the Super Bowl. But I still think that they need to upgrade that deep passing game. So it's so tough with Rice. You can really see that gold mine at the end with Kelce retiring in the future. But yeah, I just take the cheapest, if I'm honest. I think you can get caught up a little bit, like we're reviewing the playoffs and we're speaking with lots of love in our hearts and memories of the playoffs, but take the emotion out and just look at the numbers and the situations, and yeah, whichever's the cheapest is the correct answer. But I think with Flowers, I'd be tempted to put him number one out of those three, if I'm honest. I know Tank Dell got a lot of love on last week's show. I've probably got Nico over Tank Dell. I'm not an ageist. I'm only thinking 2 years. So yeah, I don't know if
He got that big body.
He's got that big body, yeah. But all I would say is wide receiver scouting is not my strong point. But we are going to move on to the next wide receiver, and I don't need to be good at wide receiver scouting to say this guy is an absolute stud. Amon-Ra St. Brown. What a fantastic playoff run he had this offseason as well. Just looking at some of the numbers, like every game he had 7 receptions or more. Every game he had at least 77 yards receiving as well. So he's exactly what we thought it would be this season. He's been so consistent, so steady. Sometimes it's been your ceiling weeks as well. I just feel that not enough people are talking about him as potentially creeping up a little bit or being in a different tier to what he is. Many people have him in tier 2 behind the big 3. Actually, and I've seen sort of whispers of this early on today. There was a post by Jordan McNamara at McNamara Dynasty about him and Chase, Amon-Ra and Chase having pretty much similar numbers. Obviously, Amon-Ra smoked Chase this season in fantasy points per game and lots of metrics. And granted, Joe Burrow wasn't playing, Jake Browning was, and all that. But yeah, I think if you look over the careers, it's very, very similar between Amon-Ra and Chase. If you just look in, take out everything that happened before the NFL, the first round draft capital and the LSU stuff and all that, purely on numbers, very, very similar. I think it's a conversation where, and it's not going to shock me when it's tier of 2, Jefferson and Lamb, then another tier of 2, Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think the easy move for me personally is if I've got Chase and I can get Amon-Ra. Do you know what? I think there'll be some people out there maybe that are more casual. You might be able to get first or a high second on top of Amon-Ra St. Brown's Chase. I'm doing that. I'm doing that personally. People will shake their head and say, "Oh, Chase is a round 1 draft pick and he's tied to Joe Burrow, who's better than Goff." Is he though? Like, I mean, real life, yeah, sure, but Joe Burrow's been in some pretty awesome situations in college and in the NFL. How do we know he's not assistant QB, as I called him? I'm not going to say it, but I just feel that, yeah, it's conversation. Amon-Ra's done fantastic in the playoffs. He's a definite top 4. I think he's a tier 2 wide receiver with Chase. Is a personal view. I think if you've got him, you're so happy with what he's done in Dynasty. He'll get a mega extension next offseason. I think it is when his rookie deal's coming up. And if Jared Goff does move on, which I don't think he will, I think he is actually safe and secure. Unless he just got to tell himself, like the Lions, when are they going to be in position to take a QB? What sort of a QB is going to hit free agency that's an upgrade on Goff? I don't know. I find it really tough to see that. People were saying Hendon Hooker was going to take his job, which I might have whispered that, but we'll put that in the outtakes. I just think, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's properly tied in long term, and you're so happy with him. If it's not Goff, the way that he wins over the middle in the short game, yards after the catch, superb. I don't think it matters who the QB is. Top 4, easy.
Yeah, so I've come absolutely full circle with the Sun God. Someone did actually was obviously looking through the fantasy receipts account and was scrolling quite far down because this was the one time that I was picked with my tweet that caught plenty of traction when I said that you have to sell Amon-Ra St. Brown because his value will never be as high as it was, and he was about wide receiver 16 at the time.
Wow.
So that was a shocking call, but so impressed. Absolutely love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Picked up my first share in this season. I was so chuffed when I traded for him and Bijan Robinson in the same trade apps. Jeez. It was a stonking one. But yeah, again, very wrongly put him above CeeDee Lamb halfway through the season before CeeDee Lamb went on his absolute tear. So he must have been listening. I'm sure he'll be listening.
Going to be on fantasy receipts again with that. Joking.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, absolutely love Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's just not enough superlatives to describe him. He's an absolute stud. I have still got him as my wide receiver 4, but very close to Jamar Chase. I'm still hanging on to hope that Jamar Chase will springboard back and just be incredible. He's been pretty poor this past year or so. So, but yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown locked in on that ascending Lions team that's going to be around for a good few years now. Very young team. We love all the weapons on the Lions. May even talk about another one in a minute. But yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown is. You just hit the nail on the head. If you can get off Chase, and it's an easy move to make for most people. But you're right, and I think there's some people out there that still have Chase as wide receiver 1 in Dynasty.
Yeah.
So those are the people that you want to try and target, because they will handsomely pay up to move off Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you're going to be absolutely laughing if you can get anything more than a second on top. That's the move that I would make every single day. So yeah, we love the Sun God, and we love talking about the Sun God on this show.
We do indeed. I think obviously Amon-Ra was one of your fantasy receipts. I think brings them nicely onto the next scale. He could be one of my fantasy receipts as well. I think if he stays where he is at the moment.
Indeed. Yeah, I was just taking a sip of water right then, because I need to build myself up to just how expensive this person is in Dynasty right now. And Sam Laporta, I mean, quite rightly so. He is extreme. He is the Dynasty tight end 1 in a lot of people's eyes. I can certainly see the argument. I've got him and Trey McBride. Trey McBride could easily also be up there as tight end 1. I'll tweet out today, my hot take is that McBride, I know it's not Laporta, he will finish as the tight end 1 next year by over 50 points. So you heard it here first. But anyway, Sam Laporta, what he done this year in setting all those rookie records, receptions, touchdowns, they all came. A lot of people argue that touchdowns are a sticky stat and they can't always transition from one season to the next. But I always look at it like touchdowns are earned. That if he's not looking Amon-Ra St. Brown's way in the red zone, then he's looking Sam Laporta's way. And just he is an amazing route runner, just all-round great tight end that doesn't really play the tight end position. He catches a ton of passes in the playoffs. I know, especially when I was watching him against us in the divisional round, absolutely tearing us apart in the middle of the field, 9 catches for just 65 yards, but he was constantly moving the sticks. Just a guy that they trusted so much in his rookie season, just really breaking that mold for rookie tight ends, and that they don't develop from year 1 into, year 2, year 3 is when they take their biggest leap. Well, Sam Laporta's really done that. So yeah, just in terms of Dynasty, I don't think I'm going to end up with much Laporta. If I'm honest, I took too much Michael Mayer over Sam Laporta. I had them both really closely valued in the rookie drafts, and I did take a few more shares of Michael Mayer. But then going forward in startups, I really don't think I'm going to have any Sam Laporta at all, because I just think people have him valued as the tight end 1, way and above everybody else. And I even saw mid-second round in a startup, in a super flex startup, going back to back with CeeDee Lamb, which was, it absolutely blew my mind. I can't have him that high. Me personally, I feel like tight ends, I can wait a bit on tight ends. I think there's 7 or 8 relevant tight ends that I can go for. So I feel like I don't have to reach for that number 1. I can wait and even get probably someone like a Travis Kelce as tight end 5, 6 off the board now. There's really a lot of tight ends that I like. So really impressed with Sam Laporta. I think he could regress a little bit, but yeah, I think he's a great tight end to have. If you've got him right now, then yeah, you perhaps want to be thinking about what can you get for him if his value is really this high. But yeah, really like the guy. I think he's a stud, and what he done this year was exceptional. But his value now for me is just a little bit too much.
Yeah, that value's pretty wild. I think a lot of it could be to do with sort of how he's finished the playoffs well, 9 receptions in his last 2 games. These island games where everybody's watching, that they can be really create that vividness, that recency bias as well. But look, people know my views on Laporta. That tight end 1 in Dynasty. I've got no problem with that. He's definitely top 2 at worst. What he's done this rookie season is amazing. Like, to come in and do what he's done. What we need to realise at tight end overall is that the landscape's changing. The fact that last 10 years there's been a tight end 1, and he's just been fending off every competitor that's come to him. It's changing. We'll get onto that guy in a little bit, but like you said, there's a top 5, top 6, top 7 where that could be fluid. Sam Laporta's done it year 1. How do we know that there's not some sort of regression? Especially at that value where he's going in the mid-second in startups. And then I'm guessing you can probably get McBride in round 3, 4, something like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but it would appear that way. So, look, that's the negatives on Laporta. I just want to shade a bit of positivity on him actually as well. So, touchdown regression gets spoken about, that he got 10 touchdowns and Jared Goff only threw 30. So the first question is, Jared Goff, is he going to throw less than 30? He's had about 4 seasons around that mark previously. I think his highest was 32. So I wouldn't be concerned that Goff's going to suddenly have a 22 touchdown season. That's not going to happen, I don't think, in Detroit. The second thing is we're dinging Laporta for having a 33% touchdown rate. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a 33% touchdown rate as well. He had 10 touchdowns. So it'd be a hypocrite of me to come on and absolutely lap up the sun god and then go in heavy on a rookie tight end, Sam Laporta. I think for me with Laporta, like, if they had another wide receiver on the outside that's a true X-receiver, a big dude, a red zone threat, that's an issue because it's going to take away touchdowns. If it, like, hypothetically again, T. Higgins isn't available, if it was someone like that, that's big trouble for probably both St. Brown and Laporta, but it's not. So I just think with Laporta, be open-minded with him. Like, the market love him. If you can get him below market and he's a value, do it, because he's had a fantastic rookie season. But also, just watch out this offseason. If they're going to get like a stud outside wide receiver that's going to get 8 to 10 touchdowns of his own, and that number drops back to 5 or 6 touchdowns, someone like Trey McBride is going to be appealing. Someone like Mark Andrews is going to be mega.
Yep.
Thinking a little bit longer term, TJ Hawkinson, when he comes back, he had a really strong season as well, despite the injury at the end. So I think, I have thrown shade at him, but he deserves to be up there. He had a great playoffs. But I think if he's going mid-second in startups,
and
I will mind blown.
I will just, so this is obviously keep trade cut, take it with a pinch of salt, but it's just representative of just how far he is above the rest. So obviously just put it in the little trade calculator, and it's got Sam Laporta and Trey McBride on the other side, and it's got players to even the trade. The 205, it says, between these two, or someone like Ramondre Stevenson. So that to me just tells you that there's a massive gulf in what perceived value is between these two, which is completely unjust. I have them all pretty much valued exactly the same. So if you can get a second round pick on top of Trey McBride, then I'm going to make that move every single day. And it's the move to make, in my opinion.
Yeah, just be open. If people are thinking it's Travis Kelce 2.0, let's just calm it for now. If he does it again next season, if he's tight end 1 this season in redraft and has 12 touchdowns, then we can start maybe thinking, could it be Travis Kelce 2.0? But till then, let's just chill out a little bit and give Trey McBride some love. We're going to move on to another tight end now, and we had to get a Cowboys player in, didn't we? I give him a little bit of stick for having that record of being the first ever 2 seed to lose to a 7 seed. Jake Ferguson. So the Cowboys only had 1 game in the playoffs. but you know what? Jake Ferguson absolutely balled out. The 3 touchdowns, second in targets just behind CeeDee Lamb. It again was a mild shock because he'd not had such a big performance throughout the season. He did it in the biggest game. A lot of that is to do with that Prescott throwing it 60 times and then playing massive comeback mode in that game after getting down so much. With Ferguson, it's really interesting for me because there is a clear path for him to be the number 2 in that offense, which I love that Prescott. I think it's an offense to play indoors. The defense in that division are pretty up and down. I'm an Eagles fan, I know. A lot of it will come down to who they add again this offseason. I think Cooks and Gallup are both free agents. We know that Jerry Jones likes to splash at wide receiver or any offensive position to sort of get the fans on side as such. But Ferguson's interested in where he's going. Sort of low tight end 1 in most places. Can he ever be a top 6 nice tight end? I don't think he can. So if that's your hope that you're going to take Ferguson, it's young, he's going to grow and develop into top 5. I personally can't see it because I really like CeeDee Lamb. That I think that we'll add somebody else into that mix that's maybe a bit more consistent or reliable than Gallup and Cooks. But I think he can be a placeholder on your teams. I think it can be something you can sort of stick in for now on a team that's going to potentially compete this upcoming season or the season after and make a pivot whilst also holding value. So, because he's so young and he's going to be a starter there for the next couple of years. With him, I don't think he can be the main man. So I do like him at his cost. I think there's a lot of hype around how he will have finished the season. But treat him a little bit like Dalton Schultz, where he's on the Cowboys, he's got some nice volume there. If he ever did move, I can't see it being the same. I'm not saying he will move, but I just think that he's a short-term asset. He's a placeholder. What are you saying?
Yeah, so he's actually someone that I find really hard to value in Dynasty just because I think he is outside them top assets, but only just outside. So for me, he kind of deserves to be his tight end 10 I'm seeing him valued at, which I think is probably fair. I would have him ranked at least 2 or 3 spots lower. And I just don't really know what to make of him because I think with Jerry Jones's comments a few weeks ago, which was just funny that they're going all in for this next year and they're going to win the Super Bowl. I just think with that in mind, they're going to do everything they can they need to upgrade wide receiver 2. So I don't know who they're going to target, whether it be via the draft early on. I don't know, but I think there's definitely going to be more pass catchers or more quality pass catchers come in. And I just don't know what to make of Jake Ferguson. He's still really young at 25 years old, only just turned 25. But I'm seeing him ranked ahead of the likes of Evan Ingram, which is, I'd have him well below Evan Ingram. There's players that I like in Luke Musgrave. I think Michael Mayer can get up there. Cole Kmet is below him. Again, that's someone that I like.
You love.
So I do love him a little bit. So I just find it really, really hard to just work out where I am with Jake Ferguson. I think if it was me, I'd rather try and tier up. And I talked about with Kyle Pitts a few weeks ago. I'd love to put something on top of Jake Ferguson to get to Kyle Pitts because in terms of the values, I don't think there's a massive amount between them right now in Dynasty. Whereas I think obviously the ceiling for someone like a Kyle Pitts is massively higher than it is for Jake Ferguson, who I think will rely on touchdowns going forward. I mean, he does get the touchdowns, so you can't argue with that. He's in a great offense to do that. But I just think I'm either looking to pivot up or pivot down from Jake Ferguson. I don't think if I'm going into my season and I've got him as my tight end 1, then I think I've started in a difficult place. I'd rather go for someone like a Michael Mayer who's got some upside that I can see him projecting being better than Jake Ferguson overall. Or I just want to pivot up and do all I can to get one of them them top 7 assets, like I mentioned in when talking about Sam Laporta, I think there's a big 7 assets there, perhaps even 8, where obviously because we have to include David Njoku. Love to try and get one of those guys who I feel much better about than I do for Jake Ferguson. I just cannot work out what he is in terms of dynasty. So I just think I'd rather not take that risk and go for an asset that I know can either ascend above him or one that I know exactly what they are in, like David Njoku or Evan Ingram, something like that.
Okay, let's say you finish running up this season with Ferguson as tight end. You got the 111. You add in the 111 to Ferguson. Which tight end do you tag him?
So if I'm adding 111 to Ferguson, if I finish runner-up, then I would I pay that for Kelsey, knowing that he's not got long left? If I feel like I finished runner-up and I was not lucky and perhaps got unlucky in the championship game, then I would try and pay that for perhaps Kelsey, because again, I see a big tier break after the 107 in this rookie class. I think everyone sees it. So 108 onwards, you're not talking absolute dead certs in Dynasty. So if I'm going to get 2 years out of Kelsey that I know is going to be top 5, then I'll probably take that. And then again, if I can get Andrews even better, perhaps it'll be enough, but probably not. That's the sort of area. Kyle Pitts is another one that I'm not 100% sure on, but I know what his ceiling is, and obviously with the new scheme and everything, he is quite interesting to me. But I don't think you need to pay that on top of Ferguson to get to Pitts, unless he starts to get some hype this off season. So, who would you try and target from Ferguson, or would you not quite pay that amount?
I don't think I paid for Kelsey just because I've got quite a bit, and I do think he's a little bit like the Tom Brady situation where it's year to year for me. Like, I thought he could have potentially gone this off season, retired, gone into the Hall of Fame with his brother, that sort of thing. So I think it's year to year, and I think most people treat him year to year. In that respect, though, if he plays longer than a year, you're going to cash in. If he plays 2 years, you've smashed it. If he plays 3 years, absolute league changer that. But yeah, it's difficult. Like, if I had a tight end 2 that was, I don't know, pretty decent short term, maybe like Dalton Schultz, tight end 2, I'd be going for Hawkinson in the hope that when it comes to the second half of the season, he's absolutely firing on all cylinders. I think he's a buy of mine this off season as well. Right, so obviously we've done the playoffs review, we've done the Super Bowl review, and we've not spoke about all the big hitters, but we just want to give a little bit of time at the end for a couple of guys who we know all about. They're right at the top of the game, or have been in fantasy, maybe coming towards the end of the careers if we're thinking large spectrum. But just want to give a couple of moments on these last 2 guys, just give your thoughts on how you think about them, how they did in the playoffs, and how you think they should be viewed in Dynasty. First one, back to the star, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, absolute superstar. Didn't really deserve to lose that Super Bowl. I think he was pretty incredible. He was, when the pass catchers fell short, I think Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle was incredibly quiet in the Super Bowl. It was pretty much all Christian McCaffrey. I felt sorry for him when he fumbled early on, but he was clearly knackered because it was all him marching down the field, and then he had the fumble. But in terms of Dynasty, he's just an absolute beast. I said it a couple of years ago when he went to the 49ers. I just felt it was the perfect landing spot where the volume wasn't going to be there for where it was when he was at the Carolina Panthers. But I felt like at his stage in his career, it needed to be that role where it doesn't always have to be him. And I just think he's still got 2 elite more years to come, which is in the window that we realistically need to play in. Then I think that I'm still comfortable with him as a top 5 Dynasty running back, which really doesn't say a lot because the running back scene is not great. I've got 7 guys that I feel good about and the rest of them I've got, I'm a bit nervous about. But McCaffrey, for me, I feel really good about. Obviously, if you're not in the position or you've gone all in this year, it's not worked, I think that you do need to sell Christian McCaffrey this off-season before any talks about him slowing down start to emerge. So, yeah, unless you're really going for it again next year, then this will be the highest you'll be able to sell McCaffrey going forward. I really think that.
Yeah, first of all, a couple of shows back, I did mention the Austin Eckler trajectory and saying that McCaffrey could join him. It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I think McCaffrey's in a lot better situation than Eckler. First of all, that offense, the O-line, etc. Super Kyle Shanahan's offensive mind, not blowing Super Bowls. But yeah, I think that, if you play him on 2-year windows this season and next season, I think it's difficult because when he's on it and he's healthy, unbelievable. Nobody can touch him, I don't think. But it's just, when does he break down? I think if you're going to buy him, do it before the season, because get into the season. And while his age is ticking and creeping up, if you're going for an asset like that, I do still think the leverage is with the McCaffrey owner to say, look, he's running back one. He's giving you that edge every week. Until he shows signs of slowing down, his value is going to be up there. So, and then at that point, you probably don't want him when he's starting to slow down. People didn't want Eckler. Only idiots traded for Eckler in week 17, like me. So, yeah, I think he deserves to be top 5, top 4, but I wouldn't have him in that top tier anymore. I know Mags does, because Mags likes to win ships, but I just think it's slightly broader picture. I think, top 5 for me on that. And coming on to the last guy of the show, couldn't leave him out, could we? Such an amazing playoffs run. He's got it all. He's living the dream. He's top of the world. Travis Kelce. Just looking what he did in the playoffs. Superstar. Like, the main man turned up to the main event. Like, he was so terrible in the fantasy playoffs. Like, I was done with him. But he just came to life. Like, has he been saving himself? Has he been injured? Has he had his mind on other things? This was prime Travis Kelce again in the playoffs in the Super Bowl second half, because he was didn't do much in the first, but he must have liked that Usher show. I think how we viewing him in Dynasty is year to year. He's fallen to Titans 7 to 9 range. That's appealing, I think, on your contenders still. I won't have a problem going out and trading for him if he was the final piece. I'm really interested to see where it falls in startups, because I do think when he's on it and on form, he's a game changer at tight end. He's been up there for so long now that we know that when he's got it all together, not many can match him. He's had a couple of seasons where I think Andrews might have finished above him and Kittle might have got close. Yeah, he's mid-30s. I'm mid-30s. I'm falling apart. I'm not getting smashed every week. So, yeah, I think it's difficult if you're a contender and you've got him. You've just got to ride him out. If you're anything but a deep contender, yeah. What pivots is there, Ali?
If you're a contender?
If you're sort of like in that, let's say, 3rd to 6th place team, like, is there any pivots from Kelce at this stage, or is it literally you're in big trouble?
Yeah, I think it is. It's pretty difficult, to be honest. With that age, his value is really falling off a cliff, and especially if people think back to the second half of the season where he was being outproduced by Rashee Rice, the rookie. Whether Taylor Swift was keeping him up at night, I don't know what it was, but it was really, really dire. And again, yeah, I was writing him off, thought he was done, but what he's come back with, perhaps that's a saving grace if you are trying to move off Kelce. You can look back and just say, look what he managed to do in the playoffs. He's still going to give it at least one more year for the three-peat. So what you're paying for is a top 3 tight end in fantasy. So people will pay up for that for that 1 year run. And perhaps if you get an extra year on top of that, then that's really good. But yeah, it's a really difficult one with Kelce, because I for one am going to be emotional when you see McCaffrey and Kelsey not in the league anymore in terms of fantasy absolute superstars, because they have been the two that have been so high and above everybody else the past sort of 7 years or so. But yeah, I don't really know in terms of Kelsey. You mentioned that his value's getting to tight end 7 to 10 now, which is just crazy. I'd rather have 1 year of Kelsey than I would with, say, 2 years of the tight end 10, whoever that would be. So, yeah, if it carries on falling, or if he settles there, then I'm definitely happy to try and acquire Travis Kelsey. But you just know towards the start of next season, when they're going for their three-peat, that his value is going to rise back up. And yeah, really interested to see where he goes in startups next year. And if there's a build that you're going with, perhaps you take McCaffrey and a stud quarterback or two, then Travis Kelsey sort of in the middle rounds could be a really interesting pick for someone to be really competitive in year one and of startups. So that is going to be really interesting to me.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where his value, the market's going to be low on him now, I think, with the age, and just be aware if you're taking him, it's the longer it goes on, the more likely that you're just lighting that pick on fire, and you just have to deal with the consequences. But it's not always bad consequences when he's doing what he did in the playoffs. So we do love Kelsey still, but yeah, obviously age is a factor. When you hit your mid-30s, nobody likes you anymore.
True.
Speaking from personal. Right, so thank you for tuning in on tonight's show. We've recapped the playoffs, the Super Bowl from a Dynasty perspective. Yeah, I guess, is there any final thoughts from you, first of all, on tonight's show, Ali, and then we'll wrap up?
No, not really. Just some really interesting names. That these are the guys that will stick in people's heads, because it's what we've seen visually over the past couple of weeks, and especially the Super Bowl. Those performances will be remembered, and people recency bias is absolutely real in terms of Dynasty. So if you've got some moves to make, have these people in mind, that if they've had big performances in the playoffs, people will remember that, and their value is slightly higher now than what it will settle to in the off season. So you can certainly make some moves for and off some of these players, more so than the people that went off in week 4 or something like that. So yeah, it was a really interesting topic tonight.
Yeah, I've loved doing the topic tonight. I think, yeah, if for someone that's had a bad playoffs, like literally jump while iron's hot and that memory's still firmly etched. But then the flip is, if you've had a great playoffs, maybe give it a little bit of time. Let them ponder it over. Maybe there's some stuff that happens in the off season that goes your way and brings that value down a little bit. But yeah, just keep your eyes open and understand that, like, it might be 4 games that someone's played, but the value can skyrocket. Look at Rashee Rice; he's really picked up pace, and he's borderline top 15 now. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us and subscribe to us on X and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty. Join us for our show each Wednesday of the off season. Thank you once again. Have a great one, and we'll see you again very soon.
When you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.